Okay, we're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Cinema Savvy Movie Podcast. I'm Chris Gardner, joined with my co-host Tate Niawa. And today we're starting a bit of a new series to go alongside Game of Thrones. We are just going to offer a discussion show, basically. So it will be a 10-episode series. We're starting off with the season opener, which just came out Sunday night, isn't it, in America? And then we kind of get it early hours Monday morning.
Yeah.
So this is The Red Woman, Season 6 opener. First off, George was meant to be on this because he's a huge Game of Thrones fan as well. Unfortunately, his Mac has died on him and he's trying to get it fixed. So hopefully, fingers crossed, he can get it done before this Friday or Saturday when we get to do the Captain America Civil War review.
Yeah.
But I guess before we... Oh, this will be a spoiler-heavy review, guys, by the way.
Oh, when we say spoiler-heavy, we really do mean spoiler-heavy.
Yeah, I mean, this is a discussion of the entire episode. You can't... There's no two ways around it. It will have to be spoilers. But I guess we can start off with just what we thought of it as an opener. Did we think it was a solid episode? So, Tate, what did you think to The Red Woman? And then we'll go in-depth into it.
I'd say that it was a mixed episode, I'd say. There were some points which are really good in it, some points which weren't so good. It isn't one of the best episodes they've had, but I'd say that it was at least attempting to make an improvement on the previous series and right some of the wrongs that was done in the previous series. I quite enjoyed the previous series, but I can even admit there was faults to it all the way through it. All I can say is they're at least trying to amend those.
Yeah, no, I'll agree with that, and I think most people do as well. Series 5 is without a doubt probably the weakest season Game of Thrones has had so far. It's a lot of people talking about stuff and not really a lot happening. Yeah. There's no major plot.
It's like it is the Attack of the Clones of... Yeah. In fact, no, it's the Phantom Menace version, isn't it? Because it's all politics.
Yeah, exactly. And this episode does kind of have elements of that in some respects, but I think that the biggest thing for me is a person who has read the books. This is all new territory, more or less. There are some storylines that they still haven't got up to in the books yet, or they're just about to begin. So there's some stuff that I know where it's going to go. But, I mean, they've changed so much stuff, really, probably from season 4 and 5 were the biggest things where they changed the source material to the point where now this is just kind of its own fan fiction thing now. It is doing completely its own thing. But in some respects, especially with the Jon Snow stuff, which we'll go into now, all the stuff at the wall, the book hasn't got up that far. The book literally ended where Jon Snow was lying dead on the floor. And I think in the book it says that his eyes turn white and he's about to warg into Ghost, his direwolf. They didn't do that in the series, but it's kind of interesting and possibly even a spoiler for when book 6 comes out as to if they are going to get to all that stuff. So, we'll jump into the stuff at the wall now. So we are going to kind of take this in sections from all the different regions.
So let's just read out the regions in which we're going to. So we're going to start off at the wall. We're then going to move down to Winterfell. We're then going to move down to King's Landing, then across to Dawn, Bravos, Marine, and then the Dothraki Wasteland.
Yeah, so we're almost working our way from north to south and then across the sea for the whole episode. I know that the episode does kind of jump around a little bit with, the wall being bookended at the end, but we're just going to talk about the ending in the first part. So the season opens up with a really, really, really nice atmospheric shot of just ghost wolf howls just echoing across, and Jon Snow's dead body there with Davos finding the body.
I think it's one thing that I found it really difficult to kind of comprehend was the idea of he's being stabbed. There are loads of people gathered outside. Someone would notice. Come on.
Yeah. No, they all left. It was all deserted, man.
You would notice. You would notice a giant group of people outside, especially seeing as it looks like it was obviously set up a long time before then. They knew it was going to happen. It would have taken a while to organize to get everyone outside and everything like that. Get the sign nailed up and something like that. Someone would go, "What are you guys doing?" Someone would. I don't understand that part of the episode.
He fainted. We're all standing around to try and revive him. No, that wasn't really a problem for me, but I guess if you do go from directly the end of Series 5 to that, it would be kind of weird. But I thought it was a really, really nice opener. And I like how they actually brought Ghost back into it, because that was one of the things for me in the end of the last episode was, well, where's his direwolf? His direwolf's not there, but you can see it's like barricaded up and it's howling because they have that connection. And Davos was actually really pretty badass this series. We kind of, now that Stannis is gone, and I guess I could get into that now, but I'm still really, really annoyed that Stannis is actually dead, according to this. I know he was killed off camera, so there are probably still some theories out there, but I think he's gone, and that really, really hurts me. So we kind of see him taking this leadership quality now that Jon Snow's gone. I guess you've got Alistair Thorne, who's trying to assume control of the Night's Watch now, but really Davos is just in this room with these couple of other Night's Watch guys that haven't turned traitor. And he's really cool with this. He's never been a character I've really got behind. I know he's like a really loyal character, but there's just never really been anything to him.
He's been the only part of the Stannis plotline from the start that I've actually kind of trusted.
Yeah,
to any extent, because him and maybe Shireen to some extent have been the only two real innocent people from the Stannis party.
Yeah,
the people who you can fully trust and you can expect to see throughout the latest series. Sadly, Shireen didn't make it, but I'm glad that Davos has made it, and I want to see what he can do, especially seeing as, if you've seen the trailers, you see him a lot more throughout the series. You see him, one of the trailers I saw him with like bear flags in the background, which means hopefully the moments. And I'll talk about my predictions for what's going to happen throughout the series towards the end of this episode. But if everything goes to how I'm predicting it, it is going to be absolutely amazing, especially episode 9.
Well, hopefully we actually see some kind of battle on screen this time, and it doesn't cut away like it usually does.
They've guaranteed a battle this series, and I think it's episode 9 because if you think about it, season 1 was darting across storylines in episode 9. Season 2 was Blackwater. Season 3 was darting across storylines. Season 4 was the Watchers on the Wall. Season 5 was darting across storylines. Season 6 will be a giant battle.
Yeah. Well, I hope it is, because when they do a battle, I mean, Blackwater's probably my favourite episode so far out of all the seasons. I thought
I preferred Watchers on the Wall to Blackwater, personally. But
I think it was probably because it was the first sort of battle of that scale I'd ever seen on TV, and for the budget they had at that time, it was absolutely incredible what they achieved with that. But with going back to Alistair Thorne at the Wall, I thought it was a bit easy how he got away with it, because he sort of called a council meeting, and I can't remember the exact majority when Jon Snow was being voted as Lord Commander, but I thought it was pretty evenly split, so I was expecting more of a conflict between...
However, I feel like when they elected him in, they didn't realise he was going to go and free all the wildlings. So a lot of them may have changed off that, and I feel like the only people who really kind of stuck to him were his closest friends.
And we don't actually see the Waldens this series, and they're still at the Wall. It felt very, very small.
Predictions, but we'll get to that at the end. We'll get to that at the end. Because I think I know what's going to happen.
But no, it was just kind of... It felt very small, the stuff at the Wall this time. You kind of get the room where they're all shouting at each other with a few of them there. And then you get like an empty courtyard, and then the room where Jon Snow's at. I didn't really get that broad scope of it with all the people, but I guess they can only have certain actors in at a certain time and things like that. So it's almost like a theatre play, like that's happening off camera. You just have to kind of suspend your disbelief. The most interesting stuff for me, well, some of the most interesting stuff in this episode for me was Melisandre. We know she's come back to the Wall for a reason. They haven't been subtle with that at all, so we know that
they revealed the reason as well, didn't they?
Well, yeah, we know that she's going to have something to do with Jon Snow coming back. That's not a spoiler. We all know
really isn't. Yeah. Well, the line exactly was, I saw him at Winterfell fighting, wasn't it? I saw him fighting at Winterfell. So I reckon that's going to be episode 9.
Yeah.
I think that's fair enough. It's going to be a battle between Winterfell and blank, which we'll leave until the end of the episode. But Melisandre, this episode was titled The Red Woman. Yeah. And I feel like there wasn't enough of her in it. I understand the ending scene being about her, and I understand the idea of her losing her faith, but she had about 4 minutes of screen time, maybe less.
But she does kind of get the pivotal ending scene, doesn't she? Like the big revelation.
I do also have another question about that, which is that ending scene of her kind of revealing herself to be older. Who cares?
It depends what they do with it. Right? we don't know what they're going to do with it. But I did say, like, when I saw that, because it's a very like sort of shining moment. You know, the shot with the chick coming out the bathtub. I really want Stannis to be alive to realize that she's like this hundreds of years old.
I want Gendry to come back and go, no.
Yeah. Yeah, where is Gendry? He's still in the rowboat.
No, he's still rowing. He's still rowing.
He said he didn't know how to row, so maybe he's just been going like in circles around the whole time, just doing laps.
But seriously, who cares about the fact that she's old? I don't know what they're going to do with it or anything like that. Maybe she's going to give up her life or her youth or something like that, her youthful look, just so that Jon can be alive again. But who actually cares about her being old? Because I certainly didn't. When I think of Melisandre, I think, okay, magical woman, sometimes she's hot, I guess, and like we focus on those things only. Not once does anyone go, oh, I wonder how old she actually is. Oh, I wonder what she looks like in a natural form. Because no one ever thought of her being in a natural form. I know that was hinted, and I know that people are saying it's a plot hole, that in series 2 or 3, she was in a bathtub, and she wasn't wearing the necklace. And she was there like that. But the lines that she said at the time was, like, I mask myself. And stuff like that, and she said, "I'm older than you think," and I don't think it's the necklace that masks her age. I think it's something that the necklace reminds her of her faith, and she masks it herself. And in that scene, she just basically realized that maybe she was wrong all along about her faith, and she needed to see herself in her true form for the first time in a long time. So that's how I interpret that scene. But the only problem with that scene, which, well, other than the fact that it was, let's be honest here, it wasn't nice. But like, we didn't need it. We who cares?
Well, it's all speculation at this point, isn't it? I mean, we can't say that until we know where it goes. If it is literally just a thing that fleshes out a backstory and gives us a bit more of a history, then I guess that's pointless. Fine, because I'm all about world building and character building with histories. But
I know, but there are ways of building character revealing that she's old without having her go naked and then go older naked.
Well, it's Game of Thrones, right? Like, we have to
actually,
have nudity per episode, even if it is old person nudity. And George has actually given me some notes to read out, and one of his points was just hilarious. He was watching this when it went live for us in the UK, so it was about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And he said that the Red Woman goes from being 10 out of 10 to minus 10 out of 10 in 2 shots. Couldn't get to sleep after I saw it. Was a horrific sight at 3 a.m. And because he prepped me beforehand, actually, he says, by the way, there's old person nudity in this episode. And I was watching it, and Carice Van Houten, very, very nice, attractive lady, playing Melisandre, D-robes. And I was like, okay, this is nudity, but I don't know where the old person nudity comes into it. Oh.
Yeah.
But I think the whole thing that you were talking about there with the necklace, I mean, when they did it in series 2, they didn't know what the hell was going to be, was going to be.
Whether it's plot hole or not, she did say at the time, one line she said, someone points out on Reddit, that she said, I mask myself, and you know nothing like about me really, and I'm older than you think and stuff like that. However, like, people are pointing to that because, oh, she took off the necklace, oh, she changed age.
Well, because of that, the camera did linger on it, though.
She's a magic person, let's be honest here. Let's play it plain and simple. She knows magic. She is the Red Priestess, stuff like that. We see all these other Red Priestesses and priests not wearing amulets and stuff like that. Therefore, I think it's all in the mind. It's all something that she can control. I feel like it was a personal thing. She'd lost her faith. She didn't know whether she'd survive the night or not. She needed to see herself in her true form just to kind of get a grip back on her own reality. And maybe that'll put her in the right mindset to resurrect Jon Snow.
And then she's about to go and give a red apple, poison apple to Snow White at the end of this episode.
Cool. I believe we should now move on to the next place. Or should we talk about Dolorous Ed first?
Dolorous Ed was there.
And then he went off to go get definitely not the wildlings.
Yes. Badass, though. Actually, how did he even leave the room?
He left before they put it under guard.
Oh, okay. Okay, that makes sense. I missed
So
that
he's
part.
probably coming back with a wildling army, which all falls into my predictions, which we'll do at the end. But let's move on to Winterfell. And if you remember at the last series, we had Ramsay lose his favorite toy in the form of, I cannot remember her name. Miranda.
Who was a completely fictional character and is not in the book. And
she was good.
She was good, but I kind of resisted the idea because if you haven't, you're reading the books, right? I think you're on book 2 at the minute.
I'm on book 2, yeah.
When you get to Ramsay, which I think is in book 4, so you got a while to go yet, but he is terrifying. Now in this, I love Ramsay to death. He's one of my favorite characters, and George says that Ramsay's always the best. He still loves him. He's played very much like Joffrey was, like a pantomime villain. Yeah. Like he'll always, and he gets probably the funniest line for me in this whole episode where he's mourning Miranda. She's in the bed like dead.
Because I've known her since I was a child.
Yeah.
She'll always live on. He says, "Would you like us to build a pile? Or would you like to bury her?" And he's just like, "She's good meat. Feed it to the dogs."
Yeah. And
it's just like, that's cold.
He's so just over the top villainous, and that just makes him hilarious. But in the book, he is terrifying, and he doesn't have like a psychotic sidekick character. It's all him and Reek, and it goes into the history of why he's obsessed with Reek. And I think he had like a childhood friend who he was very, very close to, who died or something, and then he's always trying to find that person.
Yeah.
But you get the kind of sense that he's completely asexual and just completely psychotic and twisted, but he might have some kind of weird romantic connection to Reek. It's kind of really bizarre, his psychology in the book. So I kind of resisted giving that kind of character a romantic kind of interest. I know it wasn't anything serious, but it took away from his character a little bit, I felt. But
as a person who's just watched the show, he is brilliant, and the way he portrays his character is amazing, and the way he's acting it is amazing. And especially that scene where he's just like, feed it to the dogs. You just think, do you know what? I can believe him doing that. From all the things I've seen, I can believe him doing that. And you have to remember, in his head, he's still at war, and he's trying to get into that mindset, just like his father is prompting him. So you'd go forward with that, and well, it's just Ramsay. And then we get one scene with Ramsay and Roose, which is very cold on Roose's part, which makes you just remind yourself, no matter how cold Ramsay is, he will always be underwhelmed by Roose.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it was last season, wasn't it? He made him a legitimate heir of the Bolton family.
That was season 3, I think.
Was it season 3? I can't remember when it was, but it like genuinely moved Ramsay, because ultimately all he wants to be is just, included in the family. Yeah. He wants to be acknowledged. It's you can kind of mirror that with Jon Snow, really. Season 1. And then when he says, well, if you don't get them back, if you don't prove your worth, then, there might be another heir on the way who's an actually legitimate Bolton. And that's a really interesting place to leave Ramsay. Really, really cold of Roose Bolton. But Roose Bolton's a really, really just awesome character. He's like really cold and collected. You never see him break any emotion. And he looks very much like a cross between Daniel Craig and Vladimir Putin. It's kind of Then we get to some actually really interesting stuff, because I wanted to see where this storyline was going to go. You get Sansa and Theon fleeing Winterfell. Never quite explains, though, how they managed to survive the fall off the crenellations at Winterfell.
There was a snowdrift. I don't know. There was a beanbag for them to fall on.
No, it needs to be like a Batman movie.
The Eagles.
Yes. I approve of the reference. That, or it's going to be like 60s Batman, where there was like a foam fair on where they crash land into it or something like that. I don't know. But it was really cool seeing them escape. They go through an icy river at one point, and I'm not sure if they would survive that because of hypothermia, but they shrug that off because hounds are chasing them. And I didn't realize this, but you pointed this out to me. The hounds completely disappear.
As soon as the fight starts with Brienne and Pod, when they arrive, just the hounds just disappear completely.
It's got some like cloaking device on the hounds or something, just like high-tech hounds.
But we finally get to see a Pod fight a bit more, and
he's really badass as well.
Better at fighting. Brienne is just still brutal. Probably one of the best fighters in the Seven Kingdoms that's still alive.
She was kind of getting her ass handed to her at the start, though, and I was thinking, well, this isn't the Brienne I know. She's meant to be one of the greatest sword fighters in the realm, but then she quickly picks up. I knew that she was going to show up because we knew what region she was in, so every time they were there, I'm like, come on, wait for the epic dramatic moment, and then she comes in. But that was pretty cool, and probably the nicest scene of the whole episode, and we were sort of chatting about this before we hit record, the scene where Brienne pledges her loyalty and service to Sansa, and then
Sansa accepts,
sort of taking the role of her mother, what she would, and she's sort of faltering on the lines and having to be prompted by Pod. It was a really, really nice, believable scene, and I'm interested to see where all those characters go after that.
Now that Theon is back, because I'd say Reek is no longer alive, I'd say Theon is definitely back.
He's recovering, I would say.
I think that he's going to go back to the Iron Islands.
Well, they need to do all that Greyjoy stuff because Jesus.
Well, Greyjoys are back, aren't they? Yeah. So
they're definitely back this series, and long overdue. Because I think the last scene with Greyjoys was where Theon's sister shows up, and I think that was in series.
Take on the Dreadfort.
Yeah. So they've kind of left that whole branch of storylines up in the air, and I really want to see that stuff. Because in the book, the Greyjoy stuff is some of the best stuff in the book. I absolutely love seeing that. I don't think they'll have the full cast of characters, though, because in the book, Theon's dad, Balon Greyjoy, has 3 brothers, and they're all very different in their own way and all connected in what they're doing, and it's really, really fantastic. But they'll probably trim it to 1. Because we'll get to it later, but we see how ruthless this show is with cutting interesting characters that have a lot more to do in the books.
We'll get to that in a couple of things time. But first, we're going to go King's Landing.
Yeah. So actually, really great acting once again from Lena Headey. You can expect no other. She's a fantastic actress. Really, really nice scene where, and it's just the look on her face where the boat's coming in. She rushes out, sees it, and then she just sees sort of Jaime at the head of the boat, and she sees the shroud in the ship. And I like how they tied it back as well to when she went to see, is it Old Maggie, I think she's called in the book, the fortune teller. I thought that was pretty cool. There is one thing from the book, I know I keep comparing it to the book, the show's doing different things, but in the book they give her a prophecy that the Valanqua will kill her or something, which means little brother. And then you kind of interpret that whether it's going to be Sandor Clegane or Tyrion, or you think of all the other little brothers in the show. They didn't do that, but I thought that was really nice how they all tied it back in. And you know what? I completely ship Cersei and Jaime. They are the ultimate power couple. You know, I ship it. Incest or not, they're great. And then one thing about the High Sparrow and stuff. Oh, unless you got.
Oh, wait a sec. One thing based on the King's Landing storyline. Cersei and Jaime, when Marcella was sent away, I think it was a very similar setup and very similar boat. I know it's season 2, but if I remember, it was done in a very similar kind of way. So, like, you see the boat with the Dawn of Sails, you see the little kind of smaller boat coming in, and it looked like exactly the same boat, which was quite a nice kind of ending on either side.
One thing I did expect to see in that scene, though, I was surprised they didn't, unless they're going to get to that as the series goes on. I thought she was going to have a massive tirade at Tyrion, because he was the one who instigated Marcella being shipped off the Dawn in the first place. So I thought that was going to add fuel to the fire with her hatred of her little brother that way, or maybe even to Jaime as well. I was a bit surprised at how open and accepting what she was of Jaime's return, because he was sort of, no, this is a good idea. She's going to be safe in Dawn. And the fact that he went to bring her back safely and didn't. So unless this is all an act and then she's going to become bitter towards the rest of the show, we don't know. But that was a little confusing, but she still played it brilliantly. And then we were reminded of Marjorie's state in the cells.
She's doing fine.
Yeah, she looks great, even though she's been in the dungeons for ages. She looks fine.
Yeah. Okay, we'll move on to the next storyline then. there wasn't really much there. It was basically one scene where she was like,
just a reminder.
"Oh, I'm not guilty of anything," and then he was like, "Oh, so you're saying you're completely pure?" And she's like, "No one's completely pure, you dumb idiot."
And then he's like,
"You're on your way to the path of righteousness," and she's like, "Well, no shit, Sherlock."
I really want to see the High Sparrow just go into the whole Pulp Fiction spiel.
Yeah,
that'd be amazing.
Oh, we're up to dawn.
We're really doing this.
We'll start off with Trystane. Rest in peace, Trystane. I believe it's the first.
Every interesting character in the Dornish storyline,
Yeah,
right?
because I thought Trystane would probably stay at King's Landing. Even though Cersei would probably hate her, I'm guessing Jaime would go, it's probably not worth it, mate. He's like, yeah, I kind of agree. But
oh boy, the wasted fucking potential of the entire Dornish storyline is probably one of the most depressing things about this whole entire series for me.
I don't understand. What I don't understand is, Illyria says, "Oh, this is for Oberyn," but Oberyn's just like, "Oh, good, you're gonna wipe out your entire family tree." And Oberyn would be okay with that. Cool. Good job.
And this is the case of, I'm going to bring their names up because I completely forgot their bloody names. David Benioff and D.B. Weiss. This is an example of them not understanding characters and fan fictioning the source material. And it never works. There are some aspects where, like some of the other changes in the other series that I've liked was giving more depth to Robb Stark's wife.
Yeah.
She doesn't really get much to do in the books, and she's a different character entirely. She's tied to the Lannisters, and it just gets overly confusing. So changes like that I'm fine with. This, where there's just so much interest in story and political intrigue and how it can tie into everything that's going on.
The plan.
Yeah, to not see that, it really depresses me. And also for people that haven't read the books, watching the show, I feel bad for them because, like, even when the characters were dying, I've been watching it with people. Even George, when he was saying, he was like, "Oh yeah, who's Trystane? Who's this guy?" And that's because the show hasn't developed these characters.
All we know is the Sand Snakes and Illyria.
Yeah,
they're like, you can't even name each individual Sand Snake.
If I said the name Arya Hota, no one would know who that is.
He's the dude with the giant axe, which we never got to see him do anything with the giant axe, which we really all wanted to see him do something with the giant axe.
And it's just depressing because that when you get to book 4, you're introduced to this guy, Doran Martell, and at this point, when you're this late into the books and they're introducing new characters, you're like, oh god, okay, I'm gonna have to start from the ground up. But his first chapter, you are absolutely just sucked into this, just how this guy thinks, how he plans, and there's a scene where I think it's a character who's been cut from the book. She approaches him and she's saying that you don't know what you're doing. You're just sitting here in Dawn. You're not doing anything. We should be fighting now. We should be getting revenge. And he's just, look, stop what you're doing. Leave it to me. I've got a plan. And then when she goes out, he has this whole insane plan formulated. And I think he tells her what he's actually got planned. And he's amazing. And when I saw who the cast for it last season, I was like, yeah, he looks cool. He's not exactly how I imagined him in the book, but he's a great actor. And his scenes were good last season. I wanted more of them. And I thought that, as you said earlier, with season 6, it's trying to right some of the wrongs of season 5. I thought, great, we're going to get more development with this character. We're going to understand him, and we're going to get to those storylines. And you know, when she pulled the knife on Arya Hota, I was like, oh god, please don't say they're going to do what I think they're going to do. And then she stabs him, and Doran dies. And the guy's
I think 3 scenes. The worst part of this scene for me was the fact that the guards did nothing, and she was like, look at your people, they don't even move or love you anymore. And we had no indication of that at any point, other than one scene in season 5 where Illyria Sand says, the people have my back. That's it. That's the only context we had. We didn't actually see anything to do with the people having their back. And I'm not going to lie, we've been to Dawn now. We haven't actually seen Dawn. We've just seen the water gardens. That's it.
Yeah. There's no sense of scope or anything to it or any kind of cool. Like even Karth in series 2 of Game of Thrones, right, with Daenerys, that got more sense of culture and
that had so much scale. Karth did.
It's just so because now I just have no investment in this storyline. They've got rid of all. They've either just completely excised the plot from the book, and now the characters that they did have from it, they've just got rid of, and it's absolutely heartbreaking because I really wanted to see Doran do more stuff. That actor was great; he deserved more, and even his scene in this when he's having that monologue saying that, you know, I always had to be here in Dawn. I had to rule while my brother was off gallivanting, womanizing. I envy him. I wish I could have done that, but we're so very different. And she's like, you wouldn't have been a good adventurer and he wouldn't have been a great leader. And I was like, this is good stuff. This is character interaction.
And it's all gone.
And it seems like that when I watch Game of Thrones. It's this love-hate relationship I have with the show. Because for every decision they do right and for every amazing battle scene or character scene, they will
always do one wrong.
And it's not that I'm bitter that, oh, it's Game of Thrones, they always kill characters. I'm annoyed that they killed the characters before they had a chance to grow and become developed. That's the problem I have. So I was almost just ready to boycott this whole entire series with that scene. But thankfully, it was sort of in the middle of the episode and we had good stuff before and good stuff after. But it's such a shame because I wanted to see these stuff. Hopefully, they don't treat the Greyjoy stuff the same, because if they do, then I might have to drop out.
Yeah, I do need the Greyjoy stuff to be working fine. That would be nice. Just please, Game of Thrones. Let's move to Bravos, where there was literally a very tiny scene with Aya. I'm not even sure whether it'd be worth having it in this episode. Aya becomes Daredevil.
Yeah. And I'm completely fine with that. It's amazing. I love seeing this. I love to see characters. It's why Empire Strikes Back is probably my favorite Star Wars film. I love to see characters training up. So I love Batman Begins. I love Empire Strikes Back. I love Daredevil. If anyone's seen my reviews and discussions on that, I absolutely love that show. So a lot of people are really annoyed, going like, "Oh, well, she's not doing anything," and I'm there like, "This is all cool. I love seeing her just train up for it." It's the same with Bran as well. A lot of people have just been bitching about Bran. Like, granted, it took him ages to get to where he was going, but now he's there. This is going to be some of the most interesting stuff, I think, this series, and he's going to be in next episode. He wasn't in this one. But you just got Arya training up, and I can't wait till she gets to, like, episode 10. Hopefully they don't drag it out that long, where she's just blind fighting with this chick, and she's got all her senses in tune. I can't wait for that. So jump to
Marine. We had the funniest joke of the episode between the banter between Tyrion and Varys has always been the best part of, I'd say, both of their characters. I mean, Tyrion on himself is hilarious. Varys on himself is hilarious. But when they're together, it is just some of the best dialogue they have in Game of Thrones. Even when the dialogue is going kind of south, they are brilliant together. And the entire comment about, it's lucky you're not a boy anymore because you've got no dick. Hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. And they're looking to rule now. Let's be honest here. It's going to probably take about half a season to a whole season for Daenerys to get back to Marine, if she does go back. And then I think Tyrion will probably rule for the entire series. I hope he can get it under control. I hope that he can show Daenerys, actually, this is how you rule your people. First episode, what they do is they burn the entire fleet, so they're not leaving there, which is what no one wanted. Everyone wants to go see Daenerys and that lot go to the bloody 7 kingdoms. But no, we're given her entire fleet's destroyed in a mass fire. We're just like, oh my god, they're going to be stuck there for at least another 2 seasons. Oh, seriously? We need you gone by this season. Get out of Marine. Go.
All of Daenerys' storyline, more than anyone, is the one that's treading water the most, I think. And it's kind of funny to see her fans in Series 1 like, yay, she's like a really nice, awesome, compelling character. And then that slowly started to wither away as the series have gone on. Because, like, Tom as well, he was watching Game of Thrones. He's gone off it. I've kind of gone off it a bit, but I still watch it. He detests, loathes Daenerys' character, and I do too, but him way so more than me. And he just says that the only thing that people latch onto are the dragons, and now she doesn't have the dragons, and nothing's really happening with the dragons. There's just nothing there to grasp onto a character at all. But no, going back to it, Tyrion and Varys, Peter Dinklage is just great. Every scene. His character's fantastic. And Varys as well. That is one of the good decisions of the show, to keep Varys in the mix of things.
Oh, definitely. Brilliant.
Very much in the background in the book and doesn't have a whole lot to do in book 4 and 5. He sort of instigates something at the end, which they haven't really got to yet. But I like the pairings they have, right? So, like, they kept Bronn on past where he is. And Varys as well is the case of this in this series. Whether he's having back and forth with Tyrion or Littlefinger, that was some of my favourite scenes in like series 1 and 2, trying to one up each other.
I have to say, Littlefinger and Varys are a lot more similar than we give them credit. I mean, Littlefinger is more of the evil version of Varys.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And again, it's that going back to sort of protagonist, antagonist. My favourite ones are the ones that have that mutual respect for each other, which they do. And going back to the Red Priest thing, we're getting a theme of this all going through the episodes, whether it's with Melisandre and that religion or whether it's in Meereen. And this religion starting to come out the shadows now.
We had a Red Priest in Series 5. And I know in the trailers we got a female Red Priestess.
I think that's meant to be her. I think
who's going to be in Meereen. So I feel like they're all coming forward, and I feel like that will be probably the major religion by the end of the show.
Yeah, well, I guess that's sort of like parallels what's going on in King's Landing, right? I mean, you've got the oh my god, I forgot what they're called.
Sparrows.
Yeah, so you've got like that whole religious uprising happening in King's Landing, and then we're also starting to get that slightly less violent at the minute, but they haven't started burning people yet. They've started burning ships, haven't started burning people yet. So I guess that stuff's interesting. If it's got Tyrion in it, it's going to be fine, even if it is set in a kind of uninteresting part of Westeros, what's going on. Then, is this our final section?
Yeah, the Dothraki Wasteland, but this is split into two. So first of all, we've got Jorah and Dario on a bro trip. You know,
that was some of my favorite dialogue. In that
they're broing out over trying to find Daenerys, even though they both love her in different or maybe the same ways. I'm not sure whether I'm too interested in the storyline. The only storyline I'm really interested in here is the grayscale. That's it. That's literally it.
Which has been invented from the show. So you have got that kind of ticking clock mechanic for the character of Jorah, and it looks like it's spread quite a lot between the last series. I think I mentioned this before, the whole grayscale thing, they've kind of merged his character with the storyline of a character called Jon Connington, who's in the books. They introduce another Targaryen who shows up and wants the throne as well. And Jon Connington's kind of his mentor. He is training him in the ways of the throne and what he's got to do to take it. And he's sort of the opposite to Daenerys. He's on a ship to go and, I guess this is book spoilers at the minute. Sorry if anyone hasn't read the books. But he's on a ship to go and marry his auntie, I guess, which would be, or is it sister? It's sister or auntie, I forget, Daenerys. And then Tyrion talks to him on the boat and says, well, you know, there's not really much happening over there. You've already got support. You should just totally go to Westeros and just start conquering little things and working your way up. And he's like, I should do that. And Jon Connington is the one with the grayscale. It looks like they're completely bypassing that storyline, which kind of makes me doubt if his character is actually going to have anything to do in the rest of the book, unless it's just character bloat. But no, I liked Dario and Jorah's back and forth. And I do think they love her in a different way. I think they both respect her in some way, although Dario's morals are quite questionable even still.
Something I realized a long time ago was that the people involved in episode 1, series 1 would be the people involved in episode 10, series, whenever this is going to end. Like, there's no point in introducing a character in episode 2 or episode 3 who's finally going to be the eventual winner. It's going to be a person from the first, show. So you got to take all of those characters and you look at it, and it's going to be Daenerys, it's going to be Jon, it's going to be Cersei, it's going to be Jaime. Those really are the people left. Oh, Tyrion as well. It's going to be Stark, Targaryen. It's definitely not going to be Baratheon, which is why they're all gone now. But if you look at it, that's how it's going to end. That's what's going to happen. So it's just interesting to see how all of the storylines are panning out, especially with Daenerys and this new Carl, and whether I'm guessing now after this episode, she's heading back to Days Dothrak, yeah?
Where did they say that? She's got to go to that Widow Temple.
Widow Temple in Days Dothrak, yeah.
Yeah. But it was actually kind of cool seeing the Dothraki again. I'm not going to lie, because it was the last time we've properly seen the Horde was in Series 1. And it was great seeing the kind of characters who sit at the side of the Carl and they go like, it is known, That was one of my favourite lines in the books and the show. It was great seeing that again. And I'm slightly inclined to agree with what George said in one of his notes, in that it looks like Daenerys might be half interested in this series. From the first episode, I still hate her character, but in terms of what's going on around her, it's more interesting this season, I think.
I have to say, she's back at square one.
How she was.
She's back at square one.
Yeah. Which is kind of cool, though, in itself, because we do see her, standing up to Cole Morrow, and they show her that respect. I don't think that's going to be an act. I think they genuinely they are very traditional people.
In series 1, she was in the same situation, but she was more frightened. She didn't know what to say. She didn't know what to do. Just wanted to go along with it. In this series, she's just like, nah, mate, nah, none of this. Hell no.
Hell no.
Yeah.
But again, this is an example of the storyline where it's gone past the book, because the final shot that we get of Daenerys in the book is the final shot of last series where she's surrounded. Yeah. So I don't know if this is following the storyline of the book or if they're doing their own thing. We really don't know until the book comes out, which will probably be never, because I'm still waiting. And then he's got to do book 7, so I'm going to be an old man when
7 and then book 8. Oh no, he's going to die before book 8. Let's just be honest here.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I hope not, because I want to know how the story finishes. But if not, I guess I have the show right. So I guess we can get into predictions now, if you like.
Yeah, sure. Do you want me to go first, or do you want...
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so at the wall, here's what's going to happen over the rest of the series. Once Ed comes back with the wildlings will take the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Jon Snow will be resurrected in the meantime by the Red Woman, obviously. Sansa, Brienne, and Pod and Theon will go up to the wall. They will meet up with what's his face, Davos.
Mm-hmm.
They will amass an army to go and take back Winterfell. Episode 3 is titled Oathbreaker. I think that's going to be either Brienne going off away from Sansa and just not looking after her anymore, or it will be Jon leaving the Watch. Probably Jon leaving the Watch, let's be honest here.
With that name, when I read it in the episode list, I was like, oh my god, they might actually do Lady Stoneheart. But I don't think they will at this point. I don't think they're going to do that.
Well, Forrest of Mere's back, so...
If he's back, then it's entirely possible. Maybe they're just holding off onto it, and now they realise that they've got 2 extra series to fill. Maybe they are going to bring some of those older storylines in.
Maybe. But here's what's going to happen then. Episode 9 is going to be a battle between people at the wall and Winterfell. It'll be the Boltons versus the Wildlings and the Jon Snow and the Mormont army. Now, here's what's going to happen at the end of this battle. Because I feel like Littlefinger does have a love connection with Sansa, whether he wants to admit it or not, he is still connected to that family. He still loves Catelyn, really, and in turn he loves Sansa. He will attack with the Knights of the Vale from the south, whilst the people from the wall attack from the north and sandwich the Boltons in the middle.
Okay. So where does that leave Littlefinger's allegiance with the Night's Watch then, and the Mormonts?
He is fighting. I reckon Sansa will lead the army from the north with Jon Snow in tow as well to take back Winterfell and make Sansa the Wardeness of the North. And I feel like the Vale is helping out the Wardeness of the North. I guess, I don't know. That's just how I think it's going to happen, because I know that the episode 9 will be a battle between the Boltons and what looks like the Knights of the Vale or the Wildlings. I've seen various different shots. One with Wildlings in a battle, one with the Knights in the Vale with battle. Both of them have been against Bolton shields. So I think at the same time, sandwich from the north and south. I feel like the Sand Snakes are just going to be plotting for the rest of the series. Maybe they'll send them in for a couple of assassinations in King's Landing or somewhere else, or trying to get support anywhere else, amassing an army maybe. In King's Landing, I think the entire series will be based around Cersei and Jaime taking down the High Sparrow, and the Mountain will just wreck everything. And
we get that shot in the trailer as well with Sir Strong, the Mountain, and he turns towards the camera. So we know that that's going to happen. That's going to be some good stuff.
I feel like by the end of the series, I'm not sure whether Cersei will want to release Marjorie or not.
No.
Probably not, no.
Keep her well away.
But I feel like the Knights of Flowers will try and come up with something to kind of get them released. We've done Dawn. Bravos, Aya's just going to be kind of doing her training throughout the entire series. Don't think there's going to be anything else that's really going on. In Marine, I think Tyrion and Varys, by the end of the series, will make an allegiance with the Red Priests and will have control of the city. However, as soon as Daenerys comes back, it'll go back into chaos.
If she comes back at all, right? She might not.
No, she will come back. I think Jorah and Daario will find her. I think Daario will be outed as the leader of the Harpies, and I feel like Daenerys will have an army of the Dothraki to bring back as well.
Well, I don't really know what speculation I have. I know that...
and finally, Bran will basically do nothing other than try and get to the wall and warn people of the basically White Walkers.
Yeah, well, we're going to get some more White Walker stuff in this one. We've seen that in the trailer too. Sort of my speculation, it's really hopes for the series for me, I would say, and I agree with one of George's points here, is that I really, really hope they don't drag out the whole resurrecting of Jon Snow thing, because we all know it's going to happen. Just get it over and done with. We know it's going to happen.
Yeah.
In terms of that, I can't wait to see Littlefinger back in it again. He's my favourite character, and we know that, as you just said, like his army's going to be in there somewhere. But other than that, I'm just kind of along the ride for it, really. Like, I don't know what's happening because it's gone away from the books. The book hasn't come out yet, so I don't know if it's true to that.
Apparently, it's coming out this winter, or it was last winter, and now it's coming out this winter.
And it won't be this winter. It won't be the next one, probably, either. Forever waiting for that. But yeah, I guess I've said pretty much everything on this episode, The Red Woman. So if you're done, be sure to comment, subscribe. Let us know what you thought of this episode. Did you think it was a strong season opening, and how do you think it compared to other episodes in the series?
I want to hear people's predictions as well.
Yeah,
because I'm quite interested in predicting the rest of the series.
So yeah, this is going to be our new series. It's going to be 10 episodes. We're going to do a discussion every Tuesday. We're going to shoot for throughout this entire series. So it's going to be interesting when we get to episode 10 and then have to wait another year and find out what's happening with Game of Thrones. But yeah, no, this was a lot of fun. Looking forward to the next one and seeing where it goes. And until the next episode or the review or whatever we do next, thank you very much for listening.